Today is new stove day. We are going to be replacing this stock cooktop from Suburban that came with the camper with a flush cooktop with a glass top that I ordered off of Amazon by Contour. So let's go ahead and get this process started. So the first thing we got to do is get this old burner cooktop out of the counter and see what we're working with to make sure everything is going to work properly. So let's go ahead and get that done. So this process is pretty simple. Your pull knobs just come right up and off of the stove. Same thing with your grill inserts. Just squeeze in and they pop right off. You can see here they've got a split. That way you can squeeze it in and disengage them from that. And then you got 1, 2 screws right here. Now your cooktop comes off, as you can see here, and then you're left with the mounted portion of your stove. Right here you have your propane line coming in, so you're going to need to make sure you disconnect that, and then you have 4 screws right here. So let's go ahead and get this. Make sure your propane is off before doing this and that you have no propane in the lines, obviously. But let's go ahead and get this gas line off and remove these 4 screws. All right, now that our gas line is removed, let's go ahead and get these 4 corner screws off. All right, now that we got those 4, we should be able to just lift up and pull out on this. Yep. Looks like we do have a plastic grommet we need to remove to get the head of the line out. There we go. All right, and now we have our countertop ready for the install of the new stove. So before we get to that, let's take a look at what we got and get a plan of action on how we're best going to tackle this. All right, so what I went with here is the Contour 2-burner built-in RV gas cooktop. It's 6500 BTU burner, has an electronic ignition, which we did not have on our Coleman. So if you want the electronic ignition, you will have to run a power lead over here to the stove top. Of course, that is 12 volt. It has a deluxe glass cover and blue LED backlight. Again, if you want that blue LED backlight, you're going to need to run a 12 volt power lead over to your stovetop area. So let's go ahead and get this thing unboxed. All right, here's our first look. It does come with the screws included for you to be able to mount the stove into the countertop. Again, this is the glass style countertop. It folds back and then folds up out of the way. And then you have a nice 2-burner grill setup here with the electronic igniter here. So you got your power, I'm sorry, not the electronic igniter, but your power button here turns on your LEDs, and then all the way up for ignition. Back here on the rear end, this is that electric I was talking about. You need to run your 12 volt too. So you're gonna want, if you want your igniter and your LED lit, backlit knobs, you need to hook up power to here. If you don't want those, then of course you can always cap these off and leave these undone. So next step is to get it installed. All right, to get started, you're gonna lift up this glass and then remove this grate. All you do is pull up, and it's just got some rubber housings here that these little knurls slide into. And then to get this portion out, you got 2 screws back here that you're going to remove to be able to pull that glass off. So let's go ahead and do that. Now there is a little countersunk washer that you want to make sure that you do not lose or forget to take up, as that is what holds that screw down to the actual glass mount. So once you've got those out and you move those over to the side, all you got to do is push upward a little and lift to remove the top glass cover. All right, got the glass. Gonna pull up and away and set this to the side. All right, so now we have our mounting area. You can see here you got holes where you'll be screwing into the side. But what we do need to do first is go ahead and get our countertop trimmed for a flush mount. So let's get set up for that. I just noticed something. On our camper, we do have our line coming from the side here. And on this new stove, the line goes to the back. So I had to make a quick Home Depot run. I'm sure they sell these on Amazon. Excuse me. I'm sure they sell these on Amazon, but what I got was a gas connector. This is a 3/8 inch flare, 3/8 inch flare, male and female. So they had a gas connector. It was 3/8 inch flare, female and female. So what I also had to buy was the male adapter to go on the other end. I'm sure they make these and you get them on Amazon. I'll leave a link in the description below if I can find one for you as well. So let's continue on with this install. Alright, so let's go ahead and get this set up. Make sure we have enough space before we start cutting up our countertop, and that we have everything that fits correctly. So again, I got a flexible line from Home Depot, and yep, I did it correctly. We're good there. And then this will be able to run around the back and should have no issues hooking up to the back of our new stove. So let's see. That is correct. Alright, awesome. And that's going to work. So, now that we know everything will work, let's go ahead and get our countertop cut for our new stove to go in. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I need to find center of this cut that they've already made. So what I'm going to do is draw a light pencil line straight down . from where their cuts are. And that way I can get my center line here, and then I can apply the 10.625 inches center line here and make my cuts for the front. And that'll allow us to have our stove mounted in here. Alright, I found my center. I'm going to go ahead and draw that line down. So that's the center of this hole. Now what I need to do is I need to take my measurement for the new grill and find my two new edges. Alright, now I got my center and my new cuts for my new stove going in. Let's go ahead and put this up here, make sure that we are going to have enough clearance for it. Oh yeah, snug as a bug. That's going to be our cuts right there. Alright, let's go ahead and get this countertop cut. I am just going to be using my multi-tool for this. Pretty simple. Alright, our board is loose. Now what we need to do is make sure we don't damage the underneath area. Got some staples in there. Just pull up and out she comes. But let's check those measurements as well to make sure how deep we need this section. Alright, and for this section here it needs to be 4.125 inches deep. That of course is coming from the countertop here, so let's mark that and get this cut out as well. How does I do? Alright, so now we've got this cut out. Let's see how we did with the fitment. Oh yeah, that's nice. That's gonna look great. Alright, let's get this baby installed and finished up. Gotta do some cleanup first and then we'll be done. Alright, so what I've done here is I've cut a couple pieces of 1/2 inch. Basically, I'm going to use this to bridge the gap between the width of the old stove that is further out than this one. These lips are just barely over 1/2 inch each, so this should give it the perfect size for this to fit inside here and have a place to mount and be sturdy. So I cut those two pieces of 1/2 inch backers for that purpose, and I'm gonna screw these, pre-drill and screw these in, and then I will screw the stove into these backers. So let's go ahead and get into that. Alright, so now I've installed my two backers. That way I can mount the stove in and it fits appropriately. Let's see how I did here. Perfect. Alright, everything looks good. Again, in the future, when I want to run some 12 volt back here, I'll have my LED rings as well as my igniters. But for the time being, I'm just going to install the stove. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to put my 4 screws in here, reassemble the stove, test it out, and see how it does. So stick with me. Alright, we've got all 4 screws in the sides. The backers work perfectly. They can't even move this thing. It is perfect. Let's go ahead and get this thing reassembled. Alright, so I made a mistake, and this is one of the reasons I make these videos. I measured 19.5 inches from the rear to the front of the countertop. It's actually 19.5 inches deep from the wall. So basically from here back, which means it's a good thing because these 2 screw holes will get eliminated, but I need to cut a little bit further back to install the stove top. So I'm going to do that now. Alright, we got that trimmed back. The last step we need to do is we got to put these 2 screws and washers back into the stove top to make sure that it is secure, and then we are done. We have a brand new in-counter stovetop. So we got more counter space now. We got a nicer look, fit and finish here. And yeah, I really like it. So let's go ahead and get these back in. I'll get it back together and we'll take a look at it and see how it looks. All right, countersunk washer and screw. One on each side.
Do these by hand, you don't want to strip those out. And then we will be ready to put the grate back in and give her a test.
That's it. Now we lay our grate in. And we put our glass down. There you go. I think that's a great addition to the camper. I think it's highly worth it. This was not an expensive thing to do. I'm pretty sure I have just around $100 in this. So yeah, if you like this, here, let me bring you in for a close-up. So nice and flush with the countertop. Gives you a much better work area. And now you don't need one of those stovetop covers and you don't have that thing sticking up and out. I really think this is how it should have been designed from the get-go. Well, this was another episode with the DIY dude. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have not subscribed yet, go ahead and get subscribed. I'm going to be doing a bunch more projects to this RV. I also have other hobby things that I do on this channel, like boats, customization DIY, golf cart, motorcycles, go-karts, etc. Again, this is the DIY dude, and I'll catch you on the next episode.